And welcome back to the Pixel Vision Podcast, Episode 3.
This is Deft Beck.
I'm Gamer Rez.
And we're both interrupting each other today.
Yes, we do that a lot. And also, what's going to be interrupting the industry, it seems, is new challengers. Specifically, the Epic Game Store and Stadia, which are today's topics.
So, what we're going to do is, like in our previous episodes, we're going to go and contrast it with the store of the past, then discuss the storefronts in the present, and then perhaps talk about like what the new competition is going to do for the future of digital distribution for games.
Yep, and what better way to start with the past than everybody's favorite monopoly on the game industry, and especially the PC market, and one of the very first forms of DRM, Steam.
And there were digital games before Steam, but I think it wasn't necessarily as ubiquitous as when Steam arrived in 2004 or so.
Yeah, it was about around that. It was for the launch of Half-Life, right?
Half-Life 2.
Or Half-Life 2, yeah.
I think it was around when Episode 1 was new. Because Steam as a storefront didn't necessarily exist until, I think, around Episode 1 was happening.
Did Counter-Strike 1.6 come out before or after Half-Life 2?
I believe that was a... I don't really know anything about Counter-Strike, so is there Counter-Strike and then Counter-Strike 1.6?
That was just 1.6 anyway, actually. I never even heard of Counter-Strike itself originally.
Well, it's a Half-Life mod. That was when it made into an official Valve product.
I think 1.6 was like the that
Point is that the storefront didn't arrive right away. Steam, as an application, started out as a way to go and verify Half-Life 2 copies. And a lot of people didn't really like it because it was just the connection wasn't good. Like when it was updating, it like didn't allow you to play the game, and it was more or less just not really liked at all. People were just very allergic to the idea that there would be something in between them putting in a disc and them just playing their game on their PC.
Yeah, especially because most PC games at that point still... The only real form of DRM on them, which essentially was just the disc itself had to be in the tray so the computer can recognize that the executable was there, but people are already cracking the executable files anyway for years, so even if you bought the game legally, you could just download a cracked executable and not have to keep putting the disc in the computer, which a lot of people did actually, just to kind of save on the disk's wear and tear as well as the drive itself, especially back when disk drives were nowhere near as reliable as they are today.
Or as fast. Some of the first CD-ROM drives were 1x, 2x speed.
Mm-hmm.
So they loaded incredibly slowly. Like, you had a lot more data access, but it was accessed not even that quickly. So another thing to note is the fact that after Steam debuted with their storefront, it was mostly just Valve games at first. But then what happened was third parties started to be able to go and sell their games on Steam. Indies started to have an opportunity to go and put their games on Steam. I think how it worked in the original days of Steam is you needed to go and work through Valve for the most part. I think if one of the main features of the Steam storefront was if the game ran on the source engine, you could more or less just put it on the Steam store right away. There wasn't some sort of like super approval process. When did you start your Steam account?
Me, I think I started my Steam account actually somewhat late. Probably around Left 4 Dead.
I see, so that would have been around 2010?
I didn't have a good PC when I was a young teenager. I didn't build my first gaming computer until I turned 19. Before that, I was gaming on a crappy Dell Dimension and playing WoW at low settings at 40 frames per second on a GeForce 6200.
I think some of my first... I would have to check on my Steam account, but I think it was around like when the Orange Box was new. I got like a...
Yeah, like I played that on the Xbox 360 because my computer sucked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably got into Valve IPs through the Orange Box. I think that was a really smart way of getting people into the idea of gaming on the PC again.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know, I think PC gaming was probably this sort of thing that make... If you had an older brother who's probably like in their 30s or something, that was something they might have done. They might have played like one of the Rainbow Six games or the Tom Clancy games, but you had to go into a store and buy like a CD or something.
Yeah, or especially the original Call of Duty games were much more popular on PC. Shooters in general, basically, until Halo, I would say shooters weren't that popular on consoles.
Yeah, so what ended up happening as Steam got bigger and more popular is that, you know, the famous Steam sales probably drove a lot of that. When there were a lot more games on Steam, when more publishers were putting their games on Steam, there were these very dramatic... Everyone knows what a Steam sale is, but it was a big deal when it did happen. because suddenly there'd be like hundreds of games that were all like $5, and you'd be like, oh my god, my wallet is hurting. Like, I remember that being a huge thing.
Oh, I love all the memes. Everything with the SpongeBob one with Gabe and his Jesus Christ. Are you ready for a miracle?
Like, there were bundles. It was just, I think the whole reason why Steam sales were pushed so heavily was to grow the platform and to get people onto the platform. That was before, Dota 2 and stuff happened. That was before a lot of these free-to-play games appeared on Steam. So I think that was more or less trying to get people into the idea of having like a digital library of games.
I would agree with that. Especially, I think part of the reason of the Steam sales is to make people not be as married to the idea of buying physical media at a store, since Steam essentially, you can still buy PC games, especially during that time, that just, still need the Steam launcher and stuff when you installed them. They really were trying to push for you could buy that $60 PC game, or you could wait for the sale where it's only $30, or a few years later, hey, how would you like to own all of Valve's games, all of the Elder Scrolls, all of GTA, and maybe you spent $40 total, but they're all digital. That's the only caveat.
And then people were making these massive libraries of games, and then what ended up happening is the Steam Greenlight system ended up coming out, and you could, for the first time, these indie creators were more or less, they didn't have to it wasn't as you need to have an office, you need to have all this stuff. You could be a bedroom programmer, submit a game, and if people voted for enough, it would go and be put on for sale. And then it was before Steam had a flood of games, so it was really interesting to see these kind of tiny little games get a lot of attention. And that was a real important kind of landmark moment for indie gaming on PC. A lot of the indie games that I played at first were probably Audio Surf. I played a little bit on Minecraft. That was never on Steam, but it was just around the same era.
I remember playing Through the Fire and the Flames on Audio Surf. Just goes all over the place.
All of a sudden you had these 1-5 people team games that are, there were a lot of them back on handhelds and stuff, but a lot of the console games you would think of being made from these big publishers and these big development houses. I think with the arrival of Greenlight and with the arrival of a lot of the community features, Steam had forums, but Steam also had the groups, and everyone was on Steam chat and you could see what people were playing. You could go directly to the store page. It was a great way of indirectly advertising things. What the fuck is Left 4 Dead? I can go to the store page, watch a video. Wow, everyone's playing this. And Steam also had the ability to go and hook in. It had the server browsers for source games, depending on other games. There might be GameSpy or something to find games on other platforms. But it was just a great way of discovering new stuff. And you could post screenshots and make posts about games and make your profile all interesting, put your favorite games at the top. It was really sort of an interesting nascent sort of platform. And plus what also happened was you ended up having, when the review system came out, it was a great way of finding out what were the most interesting and notable kind of brand new games, and what were the quality games. So that was a great way of finding new and interesting content. And then there was Steam Workshop. I'm just describing all the things that Steam more or less pioneered and that other storefronts probably went ahead and sort of copied. With the Steam Workshop system, what ended up happening is people who made modifications to the games made new content for it, new levels, new sort of mini content. They were able to go and make pages for each of this. Everyone knows Nexus mods and all those third-party websites, but all of a sudden it was built into the client. You could integrate it directly into the game. You didn't have to download a separate installer. So that was a really neat sort of system.
Basically, they were, instead of just modding being a fan thing that people did after they buy the commercial game, Valve was glorifying the idea of mods and things like Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, Counter-Strike, Portal 2. All of these were mods. They all started as mods. And then when they liked what they saw, they pretty much hired them on. And Steam Workshop probably definitely had a large hand involved in that, especially even more so. It started to kind of create almost even a competition, because when I played Skyrim years ago, I used the Nexus modder, but now it seems it's all done through the Steam Workshop.
Yes, or through the Bethesda. They have their own front for it now, too, right?
Yeah, and they tried to
do the credit system.
Yeah, they literally tried to take money from modders. I personally found that kind of appalling.
That's a whole other topic. But through all these different initiatives, I'd argue that, at least as of a couple of years ago, it was the de facto PC gaming platform. Mm-hmm. You didn't buy games through any other means than Steam. Steam was the way you got PC games.
True. There were other competitors that still started to pop up. Microsoft, for a while, tried to actually push their own storefront, similar in the sense of how they were handling Xbox
Games for
Live.
Windows.
Yeah, it did not go well. They basically were trying to get PC gamers to agree with the concept of paying for online multiplayer, something that was always free on PC, except for MMOs, of course, forever. And that did not go well at all, and eventually it was completely scrapped. There was things like that, Origin.
The Microsoft Store.
Yeah, what was it, like bundled with like Windows 10, 8 or something?
Yeah.
I've refused to ever even look at it, honestly.
And then you had companies that were not super well accustomed to the idea of paying Valve 30% or however much of a cut they take.
I think it's about 30.
Yeah, so Ubisoft made the Uplay launcher, and then EA made the Origin launcher, and they have their own stores, and they have some third-party games, but it would never reach the saturation that Steam does. But that was because those publishers had that sort of clout. And now what we end up having is Epic Games out of North Carolina had their own launcher that they went and debuted, and they have their own store as of December of last year.
Now, to confirm something here, the Epic Store launcher, they created that specifically for Fortnite, did they not?
Yeah, Fortnite, the smash hit game that you might have heard of.
It's a little obscure. Might have been on your radar. It's kind of dying down now, though, so...
But to play it on PC, you need to download the separate program and install it from there and have your own profile there, and there's another friends list and things like that. And they're connected to your social media profiles. And now that they have all this money from Fortnite and all the V-Bucks and crap, what they're trying to do is kind of force their way into the PC gaming market a little more. I mean, Epic Games does have they own the Unreal Engine,
which is doing fantastically well because not only is it being utilized by independent developers like crazy to churn out several fast indie games, usually like low poly isometric stuff, but also it's being used in AAA titles like Kingdom Hearts 3. The engine itself is very successful.
Better than Square Enix making up their own engine for all their dream products that are go on shelf.
Yeah, that are getting flopped horribly. Yeah, the Crystal engine, that was
Crystal Tools, yeah.
Crystal Tools, I forgot what it was exactly called, but yeah, that was a total waste of time. One thing I would say, though, regarding Epic Games, since you say that now that they have all the money from Fortnite, I didn't actually think about this until now, but Valve does not make games anymore. Valve makes money because they made Steam.
They literally print money.
Do you think that is what Epic Games is going for with creating this launcher? Like, okay, they made it for Fortnite, just like Valve made Steam for Half-Life 2 Episode 1. Do you think Epic now wants to be the new Steam?
That's a very lofty ambition, but I don't know if the Fortnite thing is going to carry them all the way to that.
Well, the Half-Life thing carried Steam, technically speaking.
To an extent, but I'd also argue that TF2 was a big factor.
Well, does Epic Games at all allow anybody to, like, mod their games?
Okay.
I mean, I know they have this custom skins and dances and stuff, but, like, can you actually take the Fortnite... Well, it's made in Unreal, but can you take Fortnite's source code and actually make a different game out of it?
No.
Or would they not let you?
It's completely proprietary. There are no mods for Fortnite, really.
Then they have to live off of their own products. I mean, they also, again, too, unlike Valve at first... Did Valve have that Havoc engine, though? Who was that?
Havoc Physics Engine is a different company, I think. I would have to look that up.
I think it was utilized before with them. But anyway, regardless of that fact, though, outsourcing the engine, too, is another huge source of income for Epic Games as well. I'd argue that probably still makes more than Fortnite does. Just because on licensing costs alone. Because if you do publish a game with Unreal Engine, you do have to still pay them something. I believe it's about 10%. Unity has that as well, too. If the game makes nothing, don't worry about it. I think if you make over 20K, that's when you have to start paying the money. Which is fair, honestly, because congratulations. But, yeah, thinking about it now, I'm wondering if that's their plan. Like, we made Fortnite, we made a lot of money, we made the engine, we made a lot of money, we want to just be Steam now, so we never have to make games again.
My main argument, though, is that I don't think that Fortnite is going to be around forever. At least with like Minecraft, what happened there? Minecraft didn't make Microsoft enough money for them to say, okay, let's make a store around Minecraft. Let's make a store where Minecraft is, and it's the only place where you can buy Minecraft, as well as these other things. They do have the Microsoft software store, but I don't think that Minecraft is the main draw to it. It's bundled in with every Windows computer anyway, and they assume that you don't go anywhere but there, assuming you're like the lowest common denominator person.
Lowest common denominator Minecraft player would probably just be somebody playing it on a non-PC platform anyway, because now it's on everything. My friend who actually runs and maintains a private Minecraft server, him and his buddies have been doing for a few years. He's the hardcore Minecraft player that has a website and has his own server, and they have a whole community involved with that. I don't really think Microsoft cares about that side whatsoever.
Minecraft it's a completely different sort of phenomenon than Fortnite is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Totally different demographic by far.
Minecraft had its height when it was still being made independently by Mojang, and then it was bought out by Microsoft, and it's being kept alive as an IP.
I wouldn't even call it a buyout, honestly. He straight up sold it. Like, he just knew, like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, Notch got out while he was at his height.
Yeah, definitely. He went out way, way ahead. I'll pick Kanye, I think, on a mansion. Or some kind of, like, really large summer home.
But I still think it's a valid comparison because here's a smash hit sort of game that came out of nowhere, and then it was used as a catapult for other ventures.
Yep. Totally intelligent decision.
But the difference is I don't necessarily see people really being engaged with Fortnite forever. People got sick of Overwatch, and that was meant to be this big platform. Like, here's the next generation of IP from Activision Blizzard Entertainment.
I mean, Overwatch itself, I already honestly think has more personality than Fortnite ever will, because the thing is, okay, Overwatch was supposed to be a movie, then it became a game. Fortnite itself literally lost its identity because of how successful its beta was. Fortnite was supposed to have a story, believe it or not.
I remember the first trailer for Fortnite a couple of E3s ago when it was meant to be. It's like a PvE zombie game at first.
You were supposed to work together saving... The original title was Fortnite Save the World. You were supposed to work together to save the world, and Battle Royale was this beta mode that they threw out there, basically.
It was a beta mode based on the success of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Yep.
Which people forget at one point was more popular.
Yeah, it was.
For like a hot second, it was what was the main Battle Royale game. The Battle Royale formula has been around for a couple years, let's clarify. We're getting a little away from the outline, but I think it's an interesting discussion. The whole formula of the Battle Royale has been around since at least the days of DayZ.
No, further back, MAG.
So MAG, DayZ, PUBG, Fortnite would be the continuity, I guess.
We went from letters to finally an actual word.
Yes. So because, now to go back to our structure here.
Yeah, with Epic Games Store.
The store launched, and the main thing they're doing to go and bait developers and publishers onto their side is having a greater percentage of money going to the publishers. I wouldn't necessarily say to the developers because, depending on how a company is structured, the developers and the publishers may not always be the same people.
Yeah, especially because the titles they're securing are all basically AAA for the most part.
Yes. So what ends up happening is they promise a greater share of revenue. With Steam, it's like 30% is going to the publisher.
No. 30% is taken from Steam. 30%
It's their cut, yes.
Yeah, if publisher only got 30%, they're screwing themselves over.
So it's a 30% cut going to Steam and a 15% cut for the Epic Games Store going to Epic Games.
Yes, it's basically the very definition of we can afford to make this more tight deal because of all the extra money we're making out of Fortnite and the Epic Unreal Engine and all stuff like that. The interesting thing with that, though, is it sounds like it's good for the publisher, but a lot of gamers have serious problems with this. It's creating a ton of controversy. I'm just going to name off some of the games real quick that are stated to be this timed exclusive for the Epic Games Store.
The average window for an exclusivity deal for the Epic Games Store seems to be around 6 to 12 months. There are some publishers that are saying, we're going to have it on Epic Games Store, but it's not going to be exclusive. You're going to be able to get it on Steam. You're going to be able to get it on GOG.
And that's perfectly fine. That's not really an issue here. These, on the other hand, kind of are. Metro Exodus, Borderlands 3, Obsidian's newly announced Outer Worlds, and Phoenix Point are some of the core examples. Borderlands 3 probably causing the biggest controversy since that is a highly, highly anticipated title.
Although I would argue Borderlands isn't necessarily the biggest IP. It used to be a lot bigger around the time of 2, but I think pre-sequel kind of soured a lot of people.
Well, you gotta remember, yeah, the pre-sequel was a totally different game, too. But you gotta remember, too, Borderlands started the looter-shooter RPG genre. This is where Destiny and Anthem... kind of Apex Legends. It's kind of hard to say. Division, though. Tom Clancy's The Division. That's where all of this came from. Because I remember the original trailer for Borderlands was the RPG and the FPS had a baby. That is literally the tagline they used. And I love the original Borderlands. I got nothing against to say that, but...
It's also important to note that every game that we mentioned does have a sort of specific case involved with it. Metro Exodus did take Steam pre-orders, but then they announced it's going to be on the Epic Games Store for a year exclusively. They said that they would honor pre-orders made on Steam, but there would be no new sales after a certain point on Steam, and they would take it off from their listing.
Which I personally think that's pretty scummy.
Then Borderlands 3 is going to be an exclusive, and completely, or is it going to be on the other store eventually?
No, it's a timed exclusive. It's going to come out in 2020 on Steam. That's been confirmed, and a lot of people are either saying they're going to wait for it to come out on Steam or they're going to pirate it. And this is also a classic example, too, of I think the publisher making a decision that's punishing the consumer and thereby having a backfire effect and punishing themselves, because a lot of consumers I know will turn to things like piracy and cracks and stuff to get around issues like online DRM. Even though they want to play the game the way the publisher is giving it to them, they're making it very difficult for them when their online DRM is either limiting, when they have terrible internet, or they, because they're less fortunate finance-wise, or they live in an area with crappy internet. Or, for example, the DRM in the case of Devil May Cry 5 recently is literally drops the frames by almost 20 frames, even on the highest of high-end gaming computers. It doesn't matter.
Because the way that the de novo DRM works, for those who don't know, is that it runs the game within its own virtual environment that checks to ensure that it's a legit copy, but to the extent that it significantly decreases performance.
Yeah, it strains the hardware. I have to imagine it's probably a massive bottleneck on either the CPU or GPU.
Yes. Also, before we move on, Phoenix Point is an interesting case study because it was a game that was crowdfunded. It's a game by the original XCOM creator. What happened was they came out with an announcement saying that the game was going to be an Epic Store exclusive, and that you couldn't purchase it on other platforms even if you asked for the key to another platform. And what they gave to their backers was either you accept a key for the Epic Games Store or you wait 1 year and then you get it for what you want. Which I think is very mean to the people who would probably be the most dedicated audience for your game. The concession they gave was, we'll give you a year free of DLC. But I don't think that's going to be enough.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And because of the fact that I agree with you, I feel in order to add a bit more of a devil's advocate to our conversation, I recently did post on my own social media about me kind of having a huge issue with the Borderlands 3 exclusivity for the Epic Games Store. I personally am very much against this practice. I'm not in favor of it. But a friend of mine had a different opinion, and he doesn't even mind if I say his name, so his name's Daryl Tripp. He's a cool guy, gamer, JavaScript developer, that I feel is worth actually reading and getting our own opinions off of his actual retort, though, so that we're not just kind of, just agreeing with each other and going in a circle.
Right. Exclusivities do not hurt the consumer in any way, shape, or form when it comes to a digital storefront. Yes, Steam is more full-fledged than Epic Games Store, but you can take a look at the very public development roadmap. They literally launch the store as fast as possible and have plans to build upon it. In the end, it won't be that much different. The reason this doesn't hurt consumers is because it's a free downloaded software. It's not a several $100 console. 2. Exclusivity deals quite literally sell platforms. I point you to Halo and the OG Xbox. They never would have made it off the ground given Sony's absolute dominance of the market without the software to merit it. More recently, Gears of War and God of War are examples of games driving sales at various times. This process is no different when it comes to downloading a different digital storefront to your PC. 3. Console exclusivity is still very much a thing, and people pay hundreds for consoles over it without this level of outrage. That's way worse than this. 4. Epic offers better profits for your sales than Steam. Period. This comes down to smart business for devs, and will eventually force Steam's hand, since these exclusivity deals will drive store adoption. I point to Metro still selling shit tons despite the bullshit Epic pulled there. It ain't all sunshine and rainbows that move with Metro was stupid, but in the end, people still bought the game. There is absolutely nothing to stand on with saying that Epic is being anti-consumer or monopolistic here. Steam has literally held a borderline monopoly for an absurd amount of time, and that's the argument you'll cite for another store offering paid exclusivity and better sales terms to developers, and all the consumer has to do is spend the money on a different storefront? I agree exclusivity hurts, but only in the wrong setting. When that exclusivity forces consumers to make a choice or spend more, like with consoles, then no, that's not okay. But when it doesn't, as in this case, then it transforms into a valid and more fair than fair business tactic. I am all for good business that doesn't fuck over consumers, and a fledgling store being compared to a 15-year-old monolith in terms of features is not fucking over consumers. I pay for my games on PC, not for Steam, Origin, EGS, or anywhere else I launch them from. Yeah, but that's to assume that Epic is going to act within a position of goodwill.
Yes.
I don't think that Epic Games Store is going to have any pressure to go and have all those massive sales that grew the Steam platform, which to a degree did decrease profits to indies and publishers overall, which drove people to go and make these other platforms to get more money.
Well, if you look at Epic Games too,
I don't see anything on Epic Games Store ever going on sale.
Yeah, not only that, if you look at Epic Games too, I don't really see them like they're going to ever really be supporting anything that's highly indie related anyway. Any like small, super small level projects for the most part.
Well, there's supermassive games Hades, which everyone already forgot about.
I didn't even know what it was, so...
It's the game where you play as one of the Hades' sons, and it's like a roguelike made by the people who made Bastion.
I myself definitely think digital store exclusivity is a massive problem. But my retort to him basically was, digital exclusivity is very much an issue. I hear the argument that the Epic Store is helping healthy competition for Steam, but I think that's a massive misconception. The problem here is that this is not healthy competition. This is actually the opposite of that. This is encouraging monopoly tactics and controlling the market through buyouts over offering better services. At the end of the day, what this all boils down to is the quality of the service that is offered to consumers. Steam and the Epic Games Launcher are services. Steam has proven to be the best service available at the time for gamers. Epic's launcher, essentially right now, sucks, and they are already in bad standing with their original fans since they sold their soul to the 14-year-old Fortnite players and Ninja, plus the other avenues of revenue they're collecting that we mentioned before. This is an even worse move by them. Sony and Microsoft were actually hated universally for a while when they tried this exclusive console platform garbage pretty much years ago, where games on PlayStation 3 get exclusive DLC, games on Xbox 360 when they launch, they get exclusive DLC. That was the very definition of, we're not trying to make our services better for you, we're just trying to throw money at the publishers so that you purchase it on our platform anyway, but your experience isn't going to be any better. Imagine if Avengers Endgame only showed at a specific high corporate theater like Cinemark, for example, that has multiple chains. That's not healthy competition. That's monopolizing the market, and it's generally a greedy, evil business tactic that I honestly think should have died with the Great Depression.
Counterpoint, a lot of the movies before the modern movie distribution system were only shown in theaters that were directly owned by the studios.
Yep.
So what spurred the idea of being able to see a movie more or less anywhere?
Generally speaking, probably that is healthy competition, was probably the market answering back, like, we want to make movies too. We can't. I would have to do the actual research, but if I took an educated guess, since I have done some research myself actually on the old movie companies, Paramount, MGM, and everything years ago, the very first pirates in the world, by the way, essentially digital pirates, I might add. It essentially was just the people fighting back, saying we probably can't afford to just go to see your movies. We want to make our movies too, but they either probably had a massive licensing fee, or they weren't letting them do them anyway, and people eventually either got back-end deals on the technology, even just silent cameras, or they reverse engineered them themselves. Once something is out there, even if there's a patent on it, somebody can still take it and do something with it. Maybe not replicate the exact function of it, but I mean, There isn't just one light bulb company. There isn't just one TV brand. You can't patent a TV.
What was so funny is that Thomas Edison was very, very adamant against people stealing his ideas.
Even though he was one of the world's largest thieves ever.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Don't worry, Tesla. The millennials remember you. With all of your memes. He has some valid points in terms of it not affecting the consumers anywhere near as bad as console exclusivity, which I 100% agree there. Yeah, that is a much bigger issue. That at the end of the day, unless it was a first-party title being developed for the console, like in studio, like Sony or something, yeah, it pretty much hurts development really bad when it's only for one specific platform, especially if it's a game that was for multiple platforms or switched from one system to another. Although one could also argue that sometimes the exclusivity could save a game too, which is kind of a counter-argument to myself, but Bayonetta 2. True. Bayonetta 1 was on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and if I recall, they weren't going to get the funding for 2 until Nintendo stepped in and threw it on the Wii U.
But that's a case of them funding the game and ensuring that it comes out.
Yeah, so it's definitely an edge case.
There's a difference between only putting on this store and will help you make the game.
Yeah, aside from hardware differences where you'd have to take that into consideration with whatever engine they're using. Besides the contract with Sony, there's absolutely no reason you can't have God of War on an Xbox console. There just isn't. You very easily could. You could have any PlayStation exclusive on an Xbox console. The PlayStation is not doing anything that cannot be replicated on the Xbox's hardware. It is purely contract-based. Now, my actual counter-argument with Daryl, though, is he states the fact that downloading the launcher isn't actually going to hurt your wallet. That's not actually entirely true. Many years ago, when all we basically relied on was an early form of PayPal, sure. Now we have digital currency. You have credit. There are people that literally have money sitting in their Steam wallet. So there is a reliance on...
There's no Epic Game Store cards yet.
No, and they're depending on how they go about with their business model, if they're going to try to clone Steam or if they want to remain their own AAA offering service, I'm not sure what direction they're going in. There isn't going to be. And there's people that already have money in their Steam wallet that they either got as a gift card or something like that. They're not going to want to actually go spend real money on the Epic Store launcher. Another reason why I also think this is really, really poor is the announcement itself is anti-consumer. If you want to argue that being on the store itself is anti-consumer, is not anti-consumer, fine. I can kind of understand that in the sense of it was better for the publisher in terms of them getting more money. But if that was the case, this should have been the way it was going to be from the start. The uproar with Borderlands 3 and probably Exodus, which is still selling, I see. It's not just over the fact that it's on the Epic Store first. It's more so just this big announcement and then kind of just getting slapped in the face. And this is not the first time that an announcement like this happened. Look at the Xbox One. That was going to be the world's first always online console, or you're not playing video games. And that was so bad. The pre-orders were so bad for the Xbox One. The Ouya was beating it at one point.
And the Xbox One is third place now.
Yep, but that's for a different reason, though. Because they dialed back on it. It being a worse place, actually. Sony, even during one E3, basically released a video.
E3.
Oh, was this...
It was literally the same E3.
No, I think it was... I think it was an Xbox, conference. That was the E3 right afterwards. But basically, yeah, Sony made a quick little video where they said, here's how you share games on PS3. Or on PS4. And they just handed it to each other and said, thank you. Which was funny that they did that to show... But at the same time, this isn't healthy competition. Because now you're cheering for a company doing something they just should have been doing in the first place. Whereas what Microsoft was doing was just straight up vile, in my opinion.
And that's why Microsoft's trying to get out of having the Xbox just be a box. But we already talked about that pretty extensively.
Yeah, definitely. They're also doing a rental service for the Xbox anyway.
Yep, and there's also the Xbox Live Ultimate thing, which is going to be bundling in Xbox Live with the Game Pass.
I could argue exclusivity deals do help the game industry more. I do think they're more anti-consumer, and I won't change my mind regarding that. But the console exclusivity is definitely far worse than this, and that I will definitely agree with. And I think that's pretty much what we're going to agree with regarding his points, but thank you for sharing that. Before we move on to streaming and stuff, there's some other things with the Epic Store we need to talk about as well, besides just the games.
Such as?
Well, for starters, as he did mention in his post, the Epic Store itself was launched, quoted by one of its actual developers, as pretty much half-baked. It was missing several features that are prominent on Steam, things like cloud saves, being able to save your games in the cloud. How many different ways can I say that?
Being able to access your game saves from any device in which you're using the Epic Game Store.
I didn't mean for you to literally say that. Anyway, streaming games just like Steam. Obviously, there's
streaming within the home.
There's no sales. There's no sales on Epic Game Store. There probably won't be. Fortnite's free, so I guess
free, quote unquote.
They'll be. Free.
You still pay for the battle pass if you want all the good stuff.
Yeah, you want all the skins that you're just gonna probably forget about anyway when you get more of them with the V-Bucks and stuff. Also, apparently there was a lot of controversy regarding the Epic Store launcher with a large investment sum coming from a major Chinese corporation.
Tencent.
Yeah, that was leading people to believe that the Epic launcher was containing adware and spyware. It was even making duplicate copies of Steam files. Like the launcher was reading your directories on your computer and making copies of Steam files. For what purpose does that serve?
According to Tim Sweeney, who's one of the major heads at Epic Games, that was a mistake and it's being patched out. But honestly, who can you really believe?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask them as many questions as you want. They're going to tell you whatever is probably best as far as the press goes. Even though the Epic Game Store is causing quite the stir in the game industry, Google is set to shake things up even more by changing the way we play games possibly forever, quote unquote. Enter the newest challenger, Stadia. We know what Stadia stands for. Does it mean anything?
Stadia, you watched the conference video, so how they framed it was, it's for people who play games, it's for people who watch games.
I meant what the word means. So.
It's meant to be like Stadium.
Oh, okay.
It's meant to be the platform for anyone to enjoy games, regardless of whatever means by which they enjoy the games, or the manner in which they enjoy the games.
Right.
So the main fulcrum of Stadia as a platform is there is no explicit console or box that you have to buy. Anywhere where you can view Google content or like a YouTube video, you can view you could play a game via Stadia on that screen. You could play it on a phone, play it on a tablet, you can play it on Google connected TV, you can play it on a PC. Right within the browser, you don't even need to install a launcher, in theory. You could just play the game. So when you go in, the example they played in the video was, you go watch a trailer for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then you click play on Stadia. Within 3 seconds, you could be playing the game in your browser and using the keyboard and mouse to play the game. Of course, in order to go and facilitate this sort of, well, before we get into that, we should also keep going through like the features, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because they are trying to promise things that
there are a lot of innovative features within Stadia that they announced at the big conference they had a few weeks ago at this point. Yeah. So the controller they announced with it, you can use any controller they said, but there's going to be a controller that connects directly to whatever device you're using on the same Wi-Fi, which I think is pretty interesting. There's another thing where if you're getting stuck on a certain section of the game, you can ask Google Assistant, how do I beat this? And then it'll find a YouTube video of the same part that you're at, like a Let's Play or a walkthrough, and it'll show you how to do it.
Which is kind of cute. And I could see that, I don't know how that would be any different, though, than just me grabbing my phone and looking it up. However, something I think would be interesting doing that is if you use Google Assist, it would show you how to beat the level in-game. Although at that point, why am I playing the game?
I don't think that's what they meant. I think it was just they would show you like a video of it.
But then that's cute. It's not needed, though. I could just grab my phone.
Right. And another example they gave was the idea that a streamer could go and have the game be recorded by whatever application you use, and then you could jump into the game on Stadia right at the moment where the streamer was doing a thing.
Yeah.
Game state sharing.
Yeah, let me reword that for you, because that's actually the feature I found the most interesting. And I think the best way to understand this is If you're familiar with any variation of emulation, whether that's through the way we've always done it for many years on PC, or we emulate game consoles, especially retro consoles, to the more recent classic systems that all have save state support. It's essentially where you capture the state of the game you're playing, or software, and you save it to a file that remembers the exact specifications of that moment, the exact memory, where you were at, the items you had. You can use the same technology with virtual machines on actual computer with Windows as well, or Linux if you want to. And then you can jump right back into that exact moment. Years ago, all we were capable of doing with things like memory cards was saving at specific moments where it remembered a few things you had, but that was it. We didn't have the computing power to actually literally almost freeze time in terms of game consoles themselves. Emulators we could, because PCs are far more powerful than game consoles are. Freeze time, though, so that you can jump right back in that moment. And while we've had that for years, and you could technically probably still do that with a high-end PC game, though, would be a lot of resources would be involved with that compared to emulators of old retro systems, whose chips are only a few megahertz. But the really cool thing with Stadia that I saw, now, I'm not saying I even know this is truly going to even work, is you could be playing anything and you can capture that save state, and then you can send that save state as a link to somebody else, and they can pick up the game from there, or you could send the link to yourself somewhere else. The idea is to essentially remove the concept of the digital library running on real hardware so you can play it anywhere. So with the save state concept, basically you can share a moment, not as just a video, but as the gameplay continuing. It's the equivalent of basically handing your friend the controller from wherever you left off, anywhere in the world.
The controller.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
That's another thing entirely. There's a thing with Stadia that's not on the outline, in which a streamer can be playing a game and then they can invite someone to go and join them via Stadia.
Yeah, which that's not that advanced technically. You could do that now. But the thing I think they're trying to go after is, though, if you're streaming on Google's platform, you can do that, aka YouTube.
Okay. I didn't know there was a distinction there.
It's probably an integration they're talking about regarding that, probably utilizing YouTube's API, because I highly doubt they're going to support that with their competitors.
Right.
They even stated that it starts off with YouTube.
And of course, in order to go and use all this fancy technology, you need to have a really, really fast internet connection, especially if you want to do it up to resolutions like 4K, 8K. But for most people, they'd probably be aiming for 1080p, and then they gave some estimate of what sort of internet connection you would need, like download speed you would need for that. And the immediate question is, okay, what if I don't have great internet? Am I the primary audience for this sort of thing? That's one of Stadia's main problems that I think people are seeing logistically.
Yeah, and it's been a problem too for a while. I mean, Google can announce they're changing the world all they want, and in certain ways they are, trust me. But in terms of this has been done before. It's been done for about a decade now. We've had game streaming services before that we've had some fairly mixed to mediocre results. Some of the more recent ones I can think of was Now Live.
On Live.
On Live. I keep
On Live was, I think, I don't know how long ago that was.
I think it was 2008. Yeah.
I remember Penny Arcade making a really jokey kind of comic that wasn't taking it seriously.
Well, you think our internet was bad now. It was far worse in 2008 for most people. I think I was still on DSL in 2008, to be honest.
And then Sony has their PlayStation Now service, which anyone can go and just play on their PlayStation 4 at this moment. But most of the games are PS3 games and probably early-gen PlayStation 4 games. And one of the caveats with that is you can't really play a lot of the newer stuff, and sometimes you get put in a queue and you have to wait a certain number of minutes before you can even play the game.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. Don't think it's going to be a smooth experience either, just because you have good internet. Because even if you have fast internet speeds that are consistent, that doesn't mean there can't still be interruptions, generally speaking, with the actual connection itself from your end all the way to Google or PlayStation. Now I'm going to get a little technical here for a moment, because essentially speaking, all streaming services use UDP, which stands for User Datagram Packet, which is a protocol essentially that is used for streaming that only cares about getting the data per the moment. That's how video streaming works. That's how game streaming works. Because let's say, for example, if you're encountering lag in a game, the game doesn't care about the data from earlier. It cares about the moment right now. So if you have a packet loss that are dropped during, say, a multiplayer session. This happened to me years ago, back when I would play like Gears of War multiplayer on Xbox Live. If I joined a game and the host just had abysmal internet, you're teleporting all over the map. And the reason why that teleporting is happening is because through UDP, you're not, the protocol itself, the console is not looking to give you all the data of the game, because then it would be putting you back to where you were, and the game is already well elsewhere. That's why when a video buffers, it kind of jumps, because it only cares about the data it needs. If you skim a video on YouTube, for example, by grabbing the little scroll bar basically over to when you get to the middle of a video, it's not going to load any of that video in between that jump. It's just going to load wherever you set the cursor and let it go. TCP, that protocol is what we utilize for things like email and instant messenger or a website loading, where we have to get all the data. If you had a connection interruption and we're trying to load a website and that connection interruption happened, you don't want to use UDP, because then you'd get maybe half the website until you refresh the page. That's a problem. So because of these technological implications, streaming itself is still new when you really think about it, especially even just with video. We just now have all these streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll if you're an anime nerd, stuff like that. With gaming, you can't have that buffering. Like you can sit there with a video and be like, internet connection, I'll just wait a couple seconds, it'll load again, I'll be good, I'll watch the rest of my video. Not the end of the world. If you're in a multiplayer match, or you're doing something that's very latency dependent, especially anything in the form of platforming, shooters, fighting games especially, care about nanoseconds when it comes to latency.
Milliseconds. Nanoseconds. Like, wow.
I mean, yeah, all right, I should be more technically specific. I'm kind of screwing myself here.
Humans don't have nanosecond level reaction times.
We don't have nanosecond reaction times, but it's still a form of measurement in time. I'm not wrong regarding that. But you're right, milliseconds is definitely more right, especially because that's how we measure latency on monitors anyway. I should have said that. Regardless, though, my point is, streaming for these types of games is just basically a no-go until it's practically perfect. It's got to be 1-to-1, because that 1 millisecond is all it takes to get knocked out. It's all it takes to miss your jump. It's all it takes to get shot in the head. And because of that, I think Google still has a very large battle with doing this. And some of the videos I've watched on YouTube, especially at people that were at GDC where this was revealed, they're already, they got mixed results on it. There's definitely lag. It's there. They can tout all they want of how seamless the experience is, but the moment that controller is in a gamer's hands, they're going to know immediately. Especially if it's something they're very passionate about and play constantly and can see the differences.
I can see where they're trying to aim this at the probably most casual gamer that just wants to play a game immediately without having to wait for a game to download. But I think even the most casual gamer will notice how sludgy it's going to feel.
Yes. Regarding PlayStation, even PlayStation Now service, my friend did it for a little while to play The Darkness, which is a game that he is amused by for some reason. But my point is, though, when he was playing it, the game is basically a shooter based on a comic book. It's first-person shooter. I watched him play it. He's beaten this game several times on his hard disk copy, but the disk is scratched to hell, so he thought he could just use the streaming service and it would just be just the same. Nope. He was teleporting all over the place. He literally kept dying, and that is that data drop happening right there. That is that connection interruption. And we had good internet when I lived with him in that apartment. We had really good internet. It's not like my internet was disconnecting. I could still watch Netflix fine. It's just these little drops, you don't notice them when you're doing stuff like browsing the web or watching a video or streaming music. Video games are massive, and I don't think the masses realize just how big they are and just how many complexities are happening at the same time in comparison to just a single file. Because a game is not a single file. ROMs are, were essentially a bunch of hardware components condensed into a single file, but games in general, though, really aren't these days. Whereas a video just needs to be decoded and encoded. That's it. That's all that really has to happen in between it being transferred.
Also, I would argue that within how they present it, you could just jump into a game by clicking a button within 3 seconds. How does the publisher determine like where that's gonna be? Like, okay, Ubisoft can be like, okay, right after the first mission when you have all the cool stuff and none of the tutorial stuff happens. Okay. It's like presenting a demo to someone. Where do you begin within the game? How do you teach them how to play? Are you even going to get them to that point? If it's literally going to be as easy as clicking on a YouTube video and watching the first 10 seconds, and you're going to have to make that first 10 seconds like... It's even more complex. With a video, you can just watch it and then click away if you're not interested. And with a game, you have to like figure out how it works. I don't think this instant sort of thing is going to be conveying the game in the right sort of light, if that makes sense.
I'm going to kind of disagree with you, actually.
Because it takes a lot of context to get to that point. Not every game begins with, okay, you're playing right now.
I think what they're trying to do, maybe you didn't quite understand it in terms of the presentation, is first off, I think the game's location, its save and everything, that's all tied to your Google account. So if you're logged into YouTube and you watch the game's trailer and you're like, I like that, I want to play that, I would assume you could hit play and then it would be kind of like a timed demo, essentially.
Well, that's the problem. We don't know how this is going to be priced. Would it be on a game-by-game basis? Would there be a subscription where you can access to a certain number of games? Would only the big publishers be in on this? Would people debut their games on Stadia? There's so many unanswered questions that I'm going to really be interested in seeing what they're going to answer in the summer, because I think even at this early stage, people are really, really suspicious.
Yeah, especially because of the fact of, like I said, the caveats from before, Google does have the hardware. I mean, they have data barges all around the world, which if you don't know what a data barge is essentially really an actual data center on barges in the ocean. That's how much money Google has. Amazon has them too. Very few companies have that level of money. After that, you're getting into like the 1%, like the Rothschilds, basically, and the Rockefellers. Yeah, that kind of level of money. Stuff you'll never see in your life, no matter how successful you are. Yeah.
Made up money. Money that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Another question is, okay, where... This game like lives on the cloud in this mystical, magical location. That game can go away literally any time.
Yeah, that's an issue collectors probably... I mean, collectors already loathe streaming services to begin with, probably, I honestly imagine.
Collectors don't like digital... Like, there are services that go and cater to people who don't want to go and download games. Limited run games is... You can go and buy, like, a game that's like $10 on Steam, will charge you $30, you get a disc, you get nice stuff. You technically own the thing. It's not as if you have to go and, like, get it verified and then you can play the game.
Yeah, but here's another thing, too. The difference between that, though, is... Even in the market now, where you have the option between... hard physical copy and a digital copy, which is becoming more and more pushed toward digital, especially in terms of independent, but that has to do with costs, is at the end of the day, you're still downloading the game, usually to your hard drive. Even if it's through Steam, Steam is writing files to your computer. Even if it's on its own little specialized directory, you have access to the game's code in some shape or form. You have access to the assets. This is why we're still able to do things like adding mods to games and stuff. And that's one of the bigger concerns in terms of PC gaming, not so much console gaming. What is Stadia going to offer in terms of that? Because there are even some developers already speaking out about this, saying, you know, I got my start with game development just by modding Doom. Because I had the files right there on my computer. They were right there. They were within my access.
You can make your own WADs with a new game debuts on Stadia, just like a mythical thing living out in the digital universe. You can't touch that. You can't learn from that.
I wouldn't call it mythical. I think you're being kind of... You're kind of like those that don't understand what the cloud is. You know what the cloud is.
I know what the cloud is.
You know what cloud computing is.
I know what clouds are. They live in the sky. They give us water sometimes. Sometimes the water is cold and it falls on me funny.
Yeah, if it's out digitally on the cloud regarding that. So how long are you going to get to keep these games? Like, if it's not a subscription-based service... Did he stop paying the subscription? Is it gone? Now, what's even more concerning, and this is my big issue with streaming services in general still, with things like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. What if the games are timed? Like they're rented, they're a license, and once they're gone, they're gone. I mean, if you look at the Epic Game Store right now, or which we just discussed in this podcast, obviously, they're buying out the rights to either have the game for a while and then it gets released elsewhere, or just keep the game outright, basically. Like, you can never get Fortnite on Steam. I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Can't wait for Epic to or like Stadia to be like, it's the Stadia Vault, like the Disney Vault. Play this game for a limited time before it goes away.
I feel like if that happens, the service is just going to tank horribly.
Yes.
Because the Disney Vault is already super hated and also already been confirmed to be a massive load of, lies. Because they still re-release stuff on Blu-ray all the time.
This is a good example, too, because Blu-ray, just because the movie is on Blu-ray doesn't mean it's the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's been well documented that Disney runs their movies through 15 billion filters, 15 different film grain cleanups. They change the color grading of things. It's not in any way resembling the original movie that you saw, or it was available like years ago.
Honestly, if you ever in some shape or form encounter any of the original film reels from the Disney movies from the early to mid 1900s, you can retire for life.
My point
because they don't exist.
A good example is Cinderella. Cinderella's dress was silver in the original movie. Now it's just blue because that matches the merchandise that they sell of Cinderella.
Really? I actually didn't know that.
Not a lot of people do, because the only thing that people can imagine, the only thing that people see is either they remember it from watching it as a tape as a kid, or they go out and buy the movie for $25 at Best Buy, and then they watch it and it's like, that looks nice, but it's not quite how I remember it. They also do a lot of things where they go and like reframe things. They go and change how things look in other ways that are I can't describe in like concise detail. Yes. So to draw back to our original conversation, if the publisher has a complete control over what you are literally just watching within a video window and interacting with, they can pull that away at any point, and then suddenly maybe there's content that was there before that is suddenly no longer available ever, and no one has any record besides like a video of it.
And that's another interesting
It's a preservation
point.
Argument.
Yeah, that's
I always talk about the preservation thing because I'm very much into the retro gaming, and so a big part of that is preserving the work of these developers and figuring out the differences between the versions and why these changes were made. Yes,
that's another thing I was going to go at, and that's another thing developers themselves are already asking questions about since this announcement just happened was, what about when a game gets patched? What happens to that old version of the game? Do we have any access to it anymore, or is it just gone? Like, what does this do for the history of gaming? Like, we need to know why this patch was done, essentially.
I mean, what you're already seeing on Steam, even, to go back to Steam, is you have Ubisoft going and taking down old versions of the Assassin's Creed games and replacing them with the remastered versions.
Yeah, which some
games
people
that already have
prefer
PC
the original.
Versions. People already have the PC versions of these, and then they make versions that Ubisoft is doing what Disney does to their old movies. They go and they run it through their new rendering technology. It looks like a piece of crap. The textures are all wrong. The lighting is all different. It looks nothing like how the artist originally created it, but now it's the only thing you can buy. The same thing happened with Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls Prepare to Die and Dark Souls Remastered are not the same game.
Yeah,
but only one is available for sale now because it's the one that they put out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. And they wanted the version they wanted it to be universal, so they went and replaced the EXE with the other one.
Yeah, and honestly, that might have been what partially tainted my interest in Dark Souls, because I tried playing Dark Souls on PC years ago off of a Steam sale, and I got it for like $5. That was the worst port I think I ever played of anything ever. I was playing a PC game that was literally still showing me Xbox buttons.
Prepare to Die edition or remastered?
I don't know. I'll have to check.
Remastered only came out like 2 years ago.
Oh, I think it was earlier than that.
Prepare to Die was probably the one that you saw.
Probably, but regardless of the fact, though, it was a terrible port. I don't know how I could say as far as the remastered version, but nonetheless, still though, yeah, I don't know how much worse the remastered one even looks. I really don't like buying a lot of HD collections of anything. I really do prefer to play the original because I feel like a lot of the original artist's intent is just lost. Especially with all the collections on the PS3. Like, the only times God of War was re-released, you put those up next to each other with you're going to notice a ton of changes.
What often happens with a lot of these remasters is that they're given to like a team that probably has no one from the original game involved. For example, Final Fantasy IX on mobile and then later on Steam was made by some random Singapore company. Infamously, Silent Hill HD Collection was done by I think it was done by Chrome Studio. But the point is, they didn't have access to the original, so they more or less had to just take a retail copy and reverse engineer in like half a year.
Yeah, the Silent Hill HD collection, especially from what I heard, actually is a mess in terms of what was cut and re-edited in that too. That actually kind of messed with the story, especially for Silent Hill 3.
I would argue. I mean, we're kind of going a little off topic there, but if the only version you can get on Stadia is like the brand spanking remastered version, I think a lot of people wouldn't appreciate that. It's like, imagine if on Disney's magical new streaming platform for movies, you can only watch the Star Wars Special Edition.
Dude, trust me when I say this. All the diehard Star Wars fans already do not, generally speaking, want to watch the special editions.
But the point is, they don't have a choice.
You know what's interesting in terms of talking about preservation, since you mentioned Star Wars real quick? There's actually a project involved for Star Wars. A little off topic, but it serves the same point of games, too, when you think about it. We all know what George Lucas did to Star Wars with the special editions that a lot of people have very mixed feelings on. Most of them hate. They took the quality of the DVDs, the laser discs, and anything they could find of the original trilogy. And there's actually a version of Star Wars out there that you can download that is not officially released. This was all a fan project that is kind of combined the laser discs, the DVDs, and the Blu-ray releases of Star Wars into what is essentially this as accurate and faithful as possible representation of the original trilogy in 1080p. And interestingly enough, it's how I showed my girlfriend Star Wars for the first time ever to prepare for episode 7 a few years ago. And honestly, it was so cool. I felt like I was watching Star Wars for the first time, even as an adult when I first seen it as a kid when I was like 6. But the same thing happens with games. Nintendo tried to remake Metroid 2 by outsourcing it to a company called Mercury Steam.
In Spain.
Yes.
The ones who made the Dracula, the Castlevania Lords of Shadow game.
Which were already not... Well, the first one was decently received, the second was not. And the 3DS title was not well received either. But my point is with this, though, they did this after the fans, for absolutely nothing, released what is quite possibly one of the best remakes of a video game ever, which was AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake. And it's... Honestly, it's just significantly better.
To be fair, AM2R did come out beforehand, and then it was cease and desisted because of the impending release of the other game.
Yeah, but my point is, though, it's a good example right there of pretty much fans knowing what they want. And what if somebody takes something, say for example, all the Doom mods and everything. People like to take, it's fan fiction essentially, but people like to take other works and build upon them.
Well, you have to
Stadia might not let you do that. How could it let you do that? It's all streamed.
You have to contrast how Nintendo works versus how id Software works. Doom was going to be open source before they one of the team members we really should be charging money for this. So it was baked into their company philosophy from the beginning. And then what ended up happening with Nintendo was... There's the argument that Nintendo really aggressively polices their IP because if they don't, then they lose their rights to it. That's just how the U.S. copyright system works.
No, I think it's more so Nintendo Japan, actually, that hates this than the U.S.
I mean, Sega lets Sonic fan mods.
Sega lets Sonic anything happen because they need it. Because Sonic has nowhere near the power Mario does in this day and age.
Sonic also was designed from the beginning to be, for Americans.
Yes, he had that edgy attitude.
He's literally red, white, and blue. Has the attitude of Bill Clinton. This is not a lie.
Did somebody quote? Please tell me somebody quoted this.
This is this is
Sonic has the attitude of the saxophone playing Bill Clinton.
This is actually from their original design doc. My point is that I think Sonic was meant to be sort of a remixable, sort of like American kind of riff thing that people could meme on. That's being continued to this day, although it's much more ironic now.
It's very ironic. I did not know that.
Sonic was designed to be easy to draw for American children.
Yeah, he's not that hard to draw.
So I think it's fitting.
Yeah.
So, just to move on a little bit, I think what's going to happen, if Stadia somehow gets a good reception, I think Sony might try to expand PlayStation Now. We neglected to mention that Microsoft also has their xCloud platform, which they haven't announced a service attached to it, but it amounts to you can stream Xbox One games. So everyone is trying to get into this somehow.
Yeah, I do wonder, in terms of Stadia's success, how much of a paradigm shift this could potentially be for gaming in terms of the console market. Nintendo just started kind of getting into digital stuff with their NES classics on the actual Switch itself. Are they streamed or are they on the system?
They're on the system.
They're on the actual
They're
system?
literally .NES files. They're running off an emulator.
Okay. So I think the only thing they've had lately they just adapted to was the cloud saving and stuff.
Yes.
But where does this take us though in the future is the thing. Could Stadia actually cause the death of consoles?
Consoles, people have argued, are been on their way out for a while.
Yeah, because I could see it, honestly. Outside of... I think the reason Nintendo is practically untouchable right now, even if the Switch doesn't have a ton of exclusives, is just its unique form factor. It's portable. It has a touch screen. It just offers you things you cannot get elsewhere, whereas Sony and Xbox and Microsoft essentially are always kind of like, anything you can do, I can do better. Over and over. It's just back and forth. That's the way it's been since PS3 and Xbox 360, essentially.
Nintendo has always made quirky toys.
No, I would argue the GameCube tried to be more mainstream system. It tried, is the word there.
The GameCube was still affected by Hiroshi Yamauchi era licensing practices. For those who don't know, the original president of Nintendo, who was behind the NES or at least the Famicom and subsequent launch in America, by the GameCube, they were still having the policy of, if you make games for Nintendo, you have to kind of sign a blood contract with Nintendo in order to do it. Very much strict licensing plans. You could only make games through Nintendo's factories. You had to play according to Nintendo's hardware rules. Go through all the strict vetting.
Tell that to Capcom, Konami, and Squaresoft then, because they made games for the GameCube and they made games for other platforms easy during those years.
But Capcom did have the Capcom 5.
They had exclusive titles to them.
3 of which were the only one of the Capcom 5 was a true exclusive. Anyone else remember Piano 3?
No. I don't remember any of them.
Piano 3 was the weird, kind of cyber spy game where you played as the girl with, danced around a lot and shot lasers.
Interesting. Save that for a stream. But I
have it. It's kind of a rare game now because it wasn't nearly as successful as a certain game called Resident Evil 4.
I need to see your collection. But that's what I was going to get at, was Resident Evil 4 first launched on the GameCube and then was later ported to other systems. Squaresoft never released a mainstay Final Fantasy title, but they did have the Crystal Chronicles series on the GameCube, got started there, which some people really like. It's not a super popular spinoff of FF, but some people do like it. What I'm saying is,
which spinoff?
The GameCube itself, and you could even argue the N64, despite the fact they decided to stay with cartridges, which kind of hurt it in terms of third-party support, were still very mainstream consoles. You could develop for the PlayStation and the N64 simultaneously. You could somehow, speaking of Capcom, they somehow got Resident Evil 2 on the N64, but just kind of gave up on 3. That port for 2 came years later from the PlayStation 1 version anyway, so they probably just saw there was no point in porting 3. Especially with the Dreamcast and the GameCube on the way. And the PS2, but they were mainstream systems. Even back to the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, which were the two big boys back then, had multi-plat games coming out. But by the Wii, we first started getting multi-plat games still developed for the Wii, obviously with lower graphics because the Wii was weaker than the PS3 and the 360 by far. It was essentially still just GameCube hardware. All that was special about the Wii with its operating system and its peripherals, the graphics chip was identical, which is why the Dolphin emulator can emulate the Wii just fine, even though it was made for the GameCube originally. It's the same chip. after the first year or two, when developers were like not wanting to make Mortal Kombat with waggle controls, basically, Nintendo pretty much was like, yeah, we're just doing our thing. And the Wii U came out, which was a failure, but even though it was a failure, it marked the fact that Nintendo was not going back on their idea of innovation with their products. The DS, the 3DS, the Switch. All their systems now are meant to do something you cannot do on any other platform. Stadia is like, hey, the things you do on consoles, you can do that on this too. But you don't have to buy a console. Stadia and services like it, if they ever find a way to reduce that latency and to get it 1-to-1, which, good luck, that could end consoles. That could end non-Nintendo consoles, non-innovative consoles, basically.
What I think Stadia is going to do is like, you play 100 minutes of this game for free. It's going to be AOL over again.
Oh no. I'm getting my Stadia spam emails again.
Buy 12
800 hours. That's like forever.
Buy 12 Pop-Tarts. You get 50 hours of Fortnite for free.
That's never gonna happen.
That would be amazing if that would happen again.
Does this generation even give a shit about Pop-Tarts? Did we even give a shit about Pop-Tarts? I think only Pop-Tarts gave a shit about themselves.
Pop-Tarts have been around since the 80s. Pop-Tarts are not going away.
They're not going away, but did anybody ever give a shit about their marketing crap? Like, we ate them, but did you actually cut out the junk on it? Because I kind of ignored it.
I think people just fucking like Pop-Tarts. People like little square sweet things.
That's not what I meant. I meant all their attempts of like throwing Pokemon characters and stuff on them.
One
like,
of these days,
it never made a difference of like, I will only eat this Pop-Tart if Ash Ketchum's face is horribly drawn with the drizzle on it.
Honestly, if you were one of the rich kids, you had the fucking toaster strudel Pop-Tarts with the squeezy icing.
Oh yeah, I remember those commercials.
When those were what the rich kids had.
Yeah, those commercials were basically appealing to rich kids. Those houses were, like, gorgeous.
Most show houses are. Also, one of these days I'm going to buy, like, a 12-pack of Pop-Tarts and just, like, when you're asleep on the couch, just kind of replace your phone with the Pop-Tart.
I'll probably just try to use it and then eat it.
No, like, I just want to see your face when, like, you just pick up your phone and it's a Pop-Tart.
That sounds like the beginning of an Adult Swim's late-night TV special.
Dun, 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 dun.
Alright, that was the most off-topic I think we ever went ever.
Honestly,
the fucking night of the Pop-Tarts. I think we can wrap it up, though.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely interested in seeing where this is going to go and testing out Stadia. And I already have an Epic Games account. I just like the free games, I guess. There's not really a lot of exclusives right now in the Epic Games Store that I'm personally interested in. Hades is one. I'm waiting for it to come on Steam because I don't really want to buy into a platform I'm not necessarily really invested in at this moment.
Especially a platform that could potentially go away if the backfire is strong enough.
I mean, given a lot of... There was some survey they sent out that said, like, something percentage of people who have the Epic Games Store have never used Steam.
Yeah, those are probably all Fortnite players that weren't into PC gaming in the first place, probably, because Fortnite doesn't require a high-end PC to begin with. I mean, it's not as low-end as Minecraft, but you could... I'm fairly certain you could play Fortnite on a ThinkBook.
Yeah, but my thing is,
ThinkPad.
Going back to the generational thing, if you have, like, a younger brother or younger sister or whatever, and you're a gamer and they're, like, of an appropriate age, take them to, like, a local indie game store. Don't take them to GameStop. Those are dying out.
They're not even, like, game stores anymore. They're
toy stores.
They're turning into Hot Topic for purely, like, gaming nerds. And comic nerds, too.
Well, with a $673 million loss, you gotta make money somehow.
Offer your employees to a god at this point.
Like an Aztec-style, like...
Yeah.
Sacrifice?
Yeah, they essentially just kind of, like, chop them up with game discs.
Midnight launches become just ritual sacrifices to Ubisoft.
I thought they already were. I miss good midnight launches. I miss the midnight launch like Pokemon Soul Silver and
Now it's
Gears
Midnight
2.
Unlocks.
Oh yeah. I swear it's like New Year's basically, just sitting there waiting to actually play the game to download.
Or like some random Italian guy gets the game like 2 months ahead of time and he's playing it really slowly and he sucks at it. That's what happened with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, and they leaked it too to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all that can really be said about regarding all of that before we go off into things that have no point to this conversation.
I'm cautiously optimistic. That's my final thought.
Yeah, Epic Game Store, I'm a bit more against. Stadia, I'm interested. I think I would rather see it as an option than the standard, though. Because I still am all about game preservation and collectors.
Consumer choice.
Yeah, just have choices. That's I mean, that's kind of the thing that, in a sense, America is supposed to be founded on, is choice. And I think other countries, essentially, too, in some variations of that.
They may
have
word it
options.
differently.
Options are good.
I mean, arguably, Epic Game Store is an option, but it's not the option that maybe would choose as their first one.
I wouldn't call it an option when they're strong-arming you into only getting it on one service. It's more of an option for the publisher, if anything, to get that extra bit of money. How that affects their audience, we're going to find out.
All right.
But now that we've babbled for an hour and a half or so, I'm curious, what are your actual thoughts on this? Do you think Steam is going to continue to be completely untouched and continue to monopolize the market? Is the Epic launcher a good thing, a bad thing? Is the digital exclusivity going to cause problems? Do you care? Do you not care? And is Stadia going to make any impact, or is it going to just fade away like OnLive did and other streaming services that are just kind of there but haven't really hit that mainstream impact like something like Netflix has, where everybody has it now these days? Let us know in the comments below or wherever else this is posted. I'm Gamer Rez.
I'm Deft Beck.
Have a good day.